could monetize it, but the amount's so small.
Yeah.
And I don't really want the interruption of the conversation with that, ad ends in 10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're from Chickamauga, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
I had a friend of mine from Chickamauga, Chris Smith, I think's his name.
Chris
Drives a dozer.
Chris
Smith Excavation.
I could get there. I'm probably one name away from that, but I don't recall that person.
He's a big guy.
Really?
Heavy.
Well, we weren't even in the city limits of Chickamauga, so.
Where were you closer to?
Walker County.
Like Fort Oglethorpe?
Boynton. Boynton would be like McDonald is to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Boynton would be to Fort Oglethorpe. And then we lived out just outside of Chickamauga towards Kensington Cove, the Cove area, Mountain Cove Farms. My parents live in Rossville, Georgia now, but my mom was from Lafayette and my dad was from East Ridge. So
you're basically from here.
I'm basically from here. Yeah. Played ball at Cleveland State, and that's how I first got to Cleveland in early 2000s.
What position did you play?
Short.
You're quick.
Got the job done.
Some people have those twitch muscles. Is that what they call it?
Fast twitch. Yeah.
That's more like what you did.
Yeah.
Was your glove real loose?
Oh yeah. It was.
You could.
Oh yeah. I played with a lot of guys from Central America who were real smooth, fluid.
What made them fluid like that?
The style of play down there.
Are most Central American people shortstops that play ball?
Yeah, a lot of middle infielders. There's not a Central American that I've ever met played ball with that's not smooth. You
heard John Thorpe, that guy that won all those Olympic medals, but they took it away from him because he was a American Indian.
Mm-hmm.
He was said to be the greatest athlete ever lived. You heard that story,
I've heard that,
sure.
Yeah.
Why Cleveland State?
It's just the first place that gave me a full scholarship to play ball.
For 2 years?
2 years. Mike Polycastro.
What'd you do then?
Went to Shorter College down in Rome, Georgia, a place I swore I'd never go. My high school baseball coach went to Shorter College, and I just thought, I'm not going to go there. But ended up being a divine appointment to go there.
Isn't it funny how things you say you won't do, you end up doing?
It's
almost like you don't need to say it.
Yeah, I'll never be on the Dee Burris show.
That's right. And here we are. You stay really busy. I mean, you've made a big splash in Cleveland.
Thank you. We've got 10 homes going right now. All going to be sold to first-time home buyers, low and moderate income households. And that's one side of the shop. The other side is our workforce training program, which my coworker Brian runs. That is more, we do welding, CDL, forklift, HVAC, and we're trying to expand to offer more technical type jobs that are not so manual labor. So like CNA, we're exploring some other programs, but there's the workforce side, the housing side, and then there's the community engagement side. If we do all those things really well but are not engaging with the community on the front lines, hearing what people are saying and working towards the goals that they want to achieve, then we're wasting our time.
When did you start this? Because I just woke up one morning just doing it.
Yeah. Matt Ryerson and Matt Carlson back in 2009 conceived of this idea. The director of Habitat and director of United Way. And they came together and said, hey, who's going to do this? You. all right, we'll both do it. And they eventually got a grant to pay for a person to run it. And that was 2014. And I was hired to be the point person for
What
that.
were you doing the day before?
My wife had our first child December 26th. I started my job January 2nd. We moved into our house in Cleveland on Harrell Avenue on January 1st. It was a very hectic week. But before that, I had briefly worked at Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise, a similar type organization in Chattanooga, where it was. I spent 5 years in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 2 years doing a master's degree, 3 years working at a small nonprofit at the height of the foreclosure crisis. But little old Chickamauga boy in Philadelphia, 13 hours away from our closest family, when we found out we were pregnant with our first child, we looked at each other and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And we said, "Well, let's move back." And knowing that I had a degree, had experience.
Degree in what?
Urban Studies, Community Development was the name of the degree. So like urban planning is more technical. You might be a city planner. You might be in the engineering department at the city. Urban Studies is more sociological, so understanding people and how things got this way.
What made you want to do that?
I was my track where I was kind of headed, the Cleveland State and Shore College days, was more towards ministry, and the closer I got to the church, the farther I wanted to get away from it. But I wasn't abandoning my faith. I was saying, I think we need to be doing things differently. I think we need to be helping people more tangibly, practically, changing the community. And so my MO was getting people out of the four walls of the church and getting them involved in something. And that's what I specialize in.
More practical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word for that. I can't think of the word for it. I guess it's practical.
I'm a practitioner, not a theologian.
But you weren't in the construction business.
Well, when I was 16, I was working in the summers, construction companies, small builders. My first paying job that I paid taxes on was with a mason's crew in Chickamauga. So from 16 to 24, while I was getting an education, I was building on the side the whole time. But I was never the lead man or head GC or.
You were just finishing sheetrock or
framing or block mason's helper or the finishing guy, just part of the crew.
Did you apply for the job here in Cleveland?
I did.
So that Matt Ryerson,
Mm-hmm.
he started a good thing, didn't he?
I think so. I mean,
you weren't familiar with him at the time, right?
No, what happened was a girl named Emily Henderson. I don't remember her maiden name, but it's Tim Henderson's niece from Cleveland Utilities.
Uh-huh.
She married JD. Anyways, but Emily was working at United Way, and she was offered the job. And on the day she was offered the job, she said, "I can't accept this. I was coming in here to tell you that I'm leaving to take another job in 2 months. But I just met this guy who might probably be better qualified than me, and I'd like to introduce him to you." So she, just divine circumstance, set up an informal meeting between me and Matt, and I was describing what I studied, what I did in Philly, and what I want to do in my life, and he goes, "Yep, you're going to get an interview." This is perfect. But I still went through the interview process, and it was that was August of 2013. But to go back to Matt, Habitat United Way, both of those organizations were really hearing from the top down. Both of those are global organizations, right? City Fields we're the only one here in Cleveland. But from the top down in both of those organizations, they were saying neighborhood revitalization is the way of the future. If we don't do this, the communities that we're building, the communities that are being left behind, the disparity is growing so intensely in our country, we're wasting our time. And so both of those organizations, local leaders, were hearing that and said, hey, let's roll the dice and get behind something like that. And that's why they dreamt up what was then known as Impact Cleveland. And we were under United Way's umbrella for 4 years as Impact Cleveland, and then we rebranded and became City Fields in 2018.
Do you have to have a contractor's license?
I do not. We work with others who do, and have a variety of specialized subs and a GC that we work with when we need to pull permits. But I do not. But I would like to look into that.
Would you say that your organization builds for profit, or?
No, we try to break even, or a little bit better than break even to pay for my time to just manage the housing program. So if this is what it would sell for at market rate, we're selling slightly below market rate. We're giving a gift of equity to buyers to help it be even more affordable, and helping with down payment assistance. So we're helping people own homes that may not otherwise be able to afford that same home. And I have a thing about the market. If what we were doing made sense, people would have been doing it, but they weren't. And when we got into our mission is to be a catalyst for change, we had to take some on the chin and take some losses and get grants to help prove the concept that revitalizing this area, the Blythe Oldfield neighborhood, was worth doing. And then you've started to see more investment happen in that area in the last 10 years. Yourself is one example. You may have been doing it before us in that particular area, but it was not, by and large, being done by many people. Mm-hmm. And so the market, if we have a trajectory here, if all of us aim to go as high as we can, as fast as we can, we're destined to crash again. So 2008 happened, and here we are in 2022, and it doesn't look like we're learning much.
Does it?
No.
Who gets the buyers for you?
Well, all of our homes are income, they have income guidelines. So when you look at the income guidelines, there's an area median income, the median income for Cleveland, Bradley County. And for most of our homes, you have to be below 80% of the area median income. That number of people in this community is probably about 40,000. So they're out there. There's plenty of need. We can't keep up with the need. There's so many people. So we do first-time homebuyer workshops, home ownership education classes, credit repair classes, and we train people to get them ready to buy. And there's been dozens and dozens of people go through that program, and not all of them buy a City Fields house. They may go off and buy a house somewhere else, but we've helped educate them to get them to the point that they need to be. But some of them go through our class and follow up with us and buy a City Fields home. So they just come to us. We do a lot of marketing and flood the neighborhood, East Cleveland area, but they just come. If you build it, they will come.
You're only selling these at maybe, 15% below market, a contractor's fee and a hair more?
That's right.
So but the person can have sweat equity, so they would you've got budgeted $3,000 for cleanup on the house, so they're going to do all the cleanup, and so they have some sweat equity?
We haven't worked that in there yet, but what we do say is within the first year of owning a City Fields home, you agree to 40 hours of community service, volunteering with City Fields, with the neighborhood association, with the community garden, various things that we give them a bunch of options. But people do that as in return for the closing cost assistance that we're able to give them, up to $2,000. But we've not involved anybody on the front end with sweat equity, like the Habitat model. They require several hundred hours of sweat equity before buying the home.
That would be that would get into what if somebody got hurt sort of thing.
Yeah, it would. So we generally leave it up to contractors, and we work with all of our contractors and say, hey, we get a lot of volunteers. There's going to be some times throughout this construction process where I need you to work with these volunteers. Mm-hmm. Would you, accommodate that and work with them? And they're all easy to work with like that. So sometimes we'll get a roof donated. Best Buy Metals or Pioneer Metals has donated vinyl siding, and a crew from Ace Hardware will come out and install various things. And
shower door or something.
Yeah, so we work with volunteers, but we're not dependent on them entirely.
Because if you get dependent on them, it's going to create chaos.
Yeah. We would need a volunteer coordinator.
Yeah.
And that would be a full-time job. And really, cost-benefit analysis, weighing the two, we can get more done by paying contractors to knock it out. Some people have asked me before, hey, so y'all use volunteers to build your homes? Oh, the contractors donate their labor. Well, sometimes they discount it, but I tell folks, nobody's donating all of their time. Like, on a small scale, yes, but these are the type of renovations or construction jobs that take 4 to 6 months at best if you're hammering down. And nobody can afford to donate 6 months of their labor.
Sure.
So they might discount it for us, and many do. But
and let's face it, some of the subcontractors are in that 40,000.
100%. That's right.
Because it's not like they're rocket scientists and they're making 150,000 a year.
Our house on 1253 Wilson that we just completed and have under contract, the guys that did the mason work, the block work, grew up in that house, and they're in their late 60s.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. It was cool.
We're just getting around to helping them.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, do you have an office somewhere?
You know where the old Blythe Elementary School is? Mm-hmm. On
inside there?
Inside there.
Yep. I don't know how you keep up with it all.
It's hard.
How many people work in the office?
We have grown. We're busting at the seams. We've got 8 people now.
Golly.
5 full-time, 1 part-time, and 2 people who are something called an AmeriCorps Vista. You've heard of Peace Corps? Mm-hmm. That's overseas. AmeriCorps, domestic. And they work for very little for 1 year as a way to kind of get their feet in the door to this type of work. Mm-hmm. And with those 2 part-time and then the other full-time, we've got 8 people now.
Do you remember that guy on TV that used to hold that book up and say, free money, had the dollar signs all over his jacket? Remember that guy? What was that guy's name, Glenn?
I know you're talking about. Had the funny glasses.
Had the funny glasses. I'm not saying that guy was exactly right, but you knowing now what you know, mm-hmm. If you had all day to navigate it, you could prosper. Am I right?
Probably.
With all the different programs and...
Probably.
I mean, remember how people used to do coupons and stuff?
Yeah.
It's a similar thing. It's just asking for money and going through hoops, which is a work in itself.
It is. It is. Which, that's a tension that I wrestle with internally. You know, the reason I got into this work was to help people, and then to help people, you gotta do that, and somebody's got to do it. And so I do some of it, but I like to spend my time more client facing. You know what I mean?
But you'll go from that to meeting the brick mason.
Right.
That's hard to. I found that's hard to change mentally.
Yeah. You've got to be a type of person with a personality that can kind of adapt to your environment.
The language even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Because it's hard to tell a guy that's working outside when it's 86 degrees that he got that off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, check that, man.
and you know, there may be circumstances that made him get it off.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
There's a lot of places to get help if you'll look for it.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Now, what do you do, even though you're doing this for nonprofit? Do the buyers get home inspections?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We just had a home inspection last week. One outlet was not working. We addressed that. Some of the plastic wrap underneath the house had moved. We addressed that, but we got it squared away. We encourage them to get home inspections because
get it over with.
Yeah, just it's good to know. I know enough about houses to kind of know, is this a structurally sound building? Mm-hmm. But it's still valuable to see it all, the report.
Have a last check or something, a last punch list, if you will. Mm-hmm. Of course, some of them get a little crazy, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, it gets carried away sometimes.
What's one of the craziest things you've had?
Oh man, I think you're thinking of one. You've had some crazy ones.
I've had some crazy ones.
I don't know. There was nothing really jumps out at me. I don't know. Pass.
But they get crazy, right?
Nitpicky. Yeah.
You know, if a home inspector did everything the book said he was going to inspect, he couldn't do it in 2 days' time.
Right.
You got to check the amperage on the hot water heater, the water temperature coming out of the water heater. I mean, it just goes on and on.
It does.
But they'll be there 2 hours and charge you $350.
Yeah.
And then the homeowner thinks they got a home inspection. All they did was kind of get a walkthrough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Now, in the old field, a lot of those lots are what, 50 or 75 or 65?
50 by 150 is the standard. You get a couple off that, but by and large, it's 50 wide by 150 deep.
And you got 10-foot setbacks for a one-story. Mm-hmm. Do they have any restrictions? Or would you say that you're just confined to the old field right now?
We have just in 2022 expanded our footprint into College Hill, which is kind of the other main neighborhood of East Cleveland. So Northeast Rec Center, Mosby Park, Mosby Pool, that East Inman corridor, that area.
Now, how do you find the lots?
Well, at first it was get what we can. And now there's more than we can keep up with.
Forgotten lots?
Lot that are tied up in errors.
Yeah, a
Lot
lot of those.
Lot that are, somebody passed away and just wants to unload it, not have to deal with it. we've gotten some lots donated before. That's always good. Empty vacant lots. I'm trying to get some of those that are back taxes that are so high nobody's bought them for 5 years because the liens on them are so high.
Can you get a clear title on them?
2 ways: just getting a quick claim deed from whoever
The heirs?
which is hard, or going through the petition to quiet title. It's a 6-month process that involves legal,
I've done that
assistance.
before, and you really still don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of the title companies will still not insure them.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on, Travis.
Travis could probably get it done.
He's been on it for us before,
Yeah.
and I've got 2 of those in the hopper right now that we don't want to start work yet on until we, get that squared away.
I've had to go get one time, one of the possible heirs, wasn't even necessarily an heir, was in prison. And he really didn't have any title to it, but there was a possibility he did. So I had to send $2,000 to him in prison to sign the quitclaim deed and get it notarized. And so that stuff takes, I think I worked on it like a year.
Gosh. That's intense.
But I got it insured, so that's the main thing. Do you know if you get those lots insured, they're only insuring the lot value, not the house. So if something happens with the house, you say, hey, I thought you said this title was good. They say, yeah, it is good. Here's your $8,000 for the lot. And it's got a house on it now.
I'm gonna make sure
So
we.
you want to get it. You want to get the title on the full loan value, the full value of it.
Yeah.
Which is probably what they do if you sold it. So I guess that would be taken care of.
That's intense.
Now, do you find that you need to build 3 bedrooms on all of these?
No, we sometimes do. Up until now, when we've done renos, we've normally kept them what they were, which was 2 bed, 1 bath. In that area, in that day and age, it was a different time when families were you might have 6 people in a house, but only have 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. We live in a different time where people want grandiose, exorbitant, crazy, lots of room. If you look at the decade by decade increase in average home square footage in the United States, I think it reached an all-time high in 2010, and for the first time in over 80 years, it came down in 2020. For the first time in over 80 years, every decade went higher and higher. So when we do a reno, we normally keep it as is. When we build new, we try to build a 3-2, 3 bed, 2 bath. We have built some 2 bed, 1 bath, or 2 bed, 1.5 bath on some crazy small lots that just wouldn't allow for a 3-2. And we've built 1 4 bed, 2 bath. That's not a typical home though for us. We tend to be on the smaller side.
I've got one down in on Dixie Drive on 64 Highway, and it was a really small. It was like 40 foot wide, and had an existing septic system, or I wouldn't have been able to get it passed. And I built a 40 by 40 house, and it's never been vacant.
Wow.
I've had this house for 12 years. I've never met the lady that lives there. She's never missed a day's rent, and I haven't been back since I walked out of it and she walked in.
Wow.
And I wasn't even there the day she walked in.
Goodness.
And here's what's funny story. I had bought another lot down on in East Cleveland, and it was a tax sale. It was not on the normal tax sale. It was a chancellor's tax sale.
Okay.
And what that means is it's just a tax sale.
Okay.
I thought it was different,
Yeah.
but it's not. And so I couldn't get clear title on it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like the guy had his wife had died and he had gotten remarried, and so the 6 children were possible heirs because he had not quitclaimed it to his new wife, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked and worked and worked to get this cleared up. Finally, I had to go to Polk County to get the last signature. And the guy said, I'm not going to sign it. I'd already built the house on it.
Oh boy.
It was crazy. So I go out to his house from the time I called him, where he said he wasn't going to sign it, and I was going to convince him to sign it. And before I got there, this is funny how this worked, but I pull up and he said, where's that paper? I want to sign it. And I thought, well, what happened from the time? And I said, and he started signing it. And I said, hey, I said, if you don't mind my asking, I said, just 30 minutes ago you said you weren't going to sign it. Now you're signing it.
That's risky.
It is risky. And I had a notary with me. I had him in the car. And he said, oh, I go to church with Miss So-and-so, and she really likes you and said you're a good guy. And it was that lady that lives in the house on Dixie Drive.
Wow.
So what are the odds of that? I mean, it's really strange.
Yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It was just all a coincidence. But that is a problem with some of those older lots. Now, one thing I've found is that generally they'll have it, you don't have to, because when you're talking about this price range you're in, you can't sell these houses for $260.
No.
What do they sell for usually?
Up until this year, which this year's going to be high,
Different.
average sales price has been about 120, 125,
Now that figures what? 190?
closer to 190. Yeah. And that's materials costs going up. That's contractors, you know, there's fewer people that know what they're doing in the game these days than there were pre-2008. And you know, just the market is driven prices up to a unprecedented level.
If I had to put my finger on what went up, it wouldn't be one thing. It would be everything by 15-20%.
I'm with you, for sure.
I've got right now approximately 17 jobs going. There's not one job I'm not waiting on something really weird. Like I've got one house that's got 2 windows in it that are made out of wood and plexiglass. They're not even real because I've been waiting 28 weeks on the windows. They're like a different size. And sheetrock. Sometimes I can't get sheetrock for 2 weeks. You know, if you need stretch rock or something a little odd. And I had one house I waited 6 weeks on cabinet hinges.
Wow.
That was in the beginning of this thing, and I don't know what it was about the cabinet hinges, but they were. It seemed like things that were made out of aluminum or glass seemed to be. And like concrete, we're only getting concrete like what?
Yeah, you got to know somebody.
You got to know somebody. They'll get concrete like 3 days a week, and you got to be in that 3 days.
Yeah.
And you can't cry wolf. You can't say I really need it if you don't, because you may really need it next week.
Well, how did you get to that point of efficiency to where 17 things are going at once? What's the key to growing economies of scale? You know, 1 or 2 is one thing, 3 to 5 is another thing, but getting to 10 plus is.
I don't really know. I think that one way I'm able to do it, and this doesn't make sense probably, but my organization is a one-man organization with a lot of help versus an organization with 10 people, it's like I can do it by myself. The help only makes it shorter versus a system that has to have all the help. And then one thing is, I go to every job every day, sometimes twice a day, and I'm able to, and I've got what I call straw bosses or I got one guy that I just talk to him, and he talks to the other people, and he'll talk. It's similar to the way the mafia works. It's a tier thing.
Point taken.
But I do go.
Yeah.
I was at a restaurant today, and the waitress was there, and I thought, now if there was a manager or a boss here, this place would be running differently. They were absentee. You can't not be there. You can go by. You don't have to stand there all day, but you got to go by. Because a lot of times when I'm talking to people about building a house, they'll say, we want an outlet under the coffee table. Well, you can't put an outlet under the coffee table till the last day you're there, because somebody will trip over it. They're going to move the coffee table. You're going to put a hole in the hardwood floor. So you wait till they literally set the coffee table. Well, you can't tell the electrician that day one, he's going to forget it.
Yeah.
So you have to have a note, and as it gets close to that time, you got to say, we got to put the outlet, and that's just one small example. But I mean, stuff is as simple as getting the brick ledge correct.
Yeah.
You gotta sort of be thinking ahead that you can't tell anybody what, hang this over, because if you use engineered stone that's 2 inches, you could have, but you were thinking you were going to use brick in the beginning, you'll have everything holding over 2 inches.
Yeah.
You ever done that? What was your solution?
Oh man, we have largely just done in terms of foundations, block, and then we've done a little bit of stucco work where we're putting brick looking, stucco.
That works.
And it's gotten the job done, and it's saving $1, passing on some savings to the homeowner. It looks just as good. But yeah, if you're not, you got to be aware of all those
all
little
that stuff in the beginning.
In the very beginning. Yeah.
I remember one time I built a house, or built a commercial building, first commercial building I ever built, and the surveyors came out and pinned the footing. Block masons came there, set the 12-inch blocks inside. So the whole building was 4 inches smaller all the way around.
Wow.
And it wasn't that big a building. It's just 40 by 40. And there was one room in there, the boardroom was just borderline too small. Well, take 4 inches out of or 8 inches out of a borderline too small boardroom. And I remember the last day he came in there at the open house, he was walking around, he said, I thought this room was going to be bigger than it looks. But that was a simple mistake that you can't correct.
Yeah.
There's no way you could correct it, and who would have thought? Because you can't check that stuff unless you go by every day and you measure. It was nobody's fault. It just happens. So do you find that you have these problems, but your buyers overlook it? Because some of mine would not.
I've got a guy that runs the project management, kind of property development coordinator is what I call him, his title or position, and he is cracking the whip and making sure every piece kind of goes in proper order. And stuff happens, and you slip up and you forget this, and occasionally there's something that happens on every project. Unless you built the same exact thing, cookie cutter, every single time, and even then, because there's so many layers to the cake, it would take 10 times or more to get it, perfect.
Because you would change.
Yeah. But our buyers are understanding of, not things not being perfect in a 1926 home that we're remodeling. They're understanding. Or even some of the new builds that we've done, stuff's not like a custom home that's worth $300,000 or $400,000, but it's structurally sound, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's functional, it's a great home, and people have just, I think, had good experiences with us.
So your buyers are not really upset about the backsplash on the kitchen counter.
We've not really done a lot of backsplashes, Dee. We've kind of.
Because if you did, you'd have to pull the outlets out.
That's right. Yeah, we're doing basic. When you look at the Blythe Oldfield neighborhood, the earliest homes that were built there, early 1900s, most of the homes were built in the 20s and 30s, and homes had this certain era of craftsmanship that was very basic. That is, I think, beautiful. We got away from doing it that way and got more ornate with our trim and with different things that people thought in modern times were needed. But those homes that were built, that simple elegance, we try to recreate that kind of period type of home. So instead of ornate trim, we're doing what I call block trim baseboards. We're doing.
I love it.
No backsplashes unless it's part of the countertop backsplash, just a 3 or 4 inch piece of granite. We do nice kitchens and nice baths.
You do granite?
We do.
So that's what, 5,000, 6,000?
All told, it's a little less than that because our homes are typically so small. We're not needing as much as a 2,000 square foot home would have. Our kitchens are smaller, so 3,000 or 4,000 probably on that.
Who do you get those from?
We mostly use Goldline.
I use him. Boy, they do a good job.
They do. Yeah, they've hit it out of the ballpark for us.
I really like him.
Yeah, and their showroom up on the north end of town, but the place where they cut it is on Blythe Avenue.
That's where I go. Yeah.
It's literally 3 or 4 blocks down the road from our office. Makes sense.
Alex Conda.
That's right, Conda.
Well, if you ever wanted to have somebody in charge, he'd be the guy.
Yeah. Yep. But he shared with me, I need workers, I need help, and every tradesman that I know is saying that same thing.
My phone's ringing. It's probably a countertop. But 190, 165. That payment is how much?
That's probably going to be $800 or $900, escrow included, and rent. So just hear me out on some numbers real quick. Average rent now in East Cleveland for a 2-bed, 1-bath, mostly not great shape home is $900.
See, I find that hard to believe because I've got rentals, and if I could rent them that much, I don't know. How do you know that's correct?
There's some online data, but also we get people calling us saying, "Hey, I can't buy a home, but I need to rent a place." And when we call around to local rental folks, they're like, "We don't have anything. If we did, this is where we're starting: $800, $850, $900."
Now that's supposed to be 1/4 of their income, so that'd be 30. That'd be $320 or $3,200 a month
Mm-hmm.
before tax, after taxes.
Yeah. What's that? Close to $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my point before we went there was a lot of the homes that we're buying, if we're buying them to remodel, might have been renting for, in the past, before this market got crazy, $600 or $700. We would typically invest $50,000 to $60,000 in the reno, on top of what we bought the house for, and the sales price be, you know, if we were in that 125 range, we were selling the homes all in cost. A mortgage payment in the end for a buyer was the same or less than what the property was renting for before we got a hold of it and did our improvements. And philosophically, I there's a place for renting, and I'm not judging it. But if we can create more home ownership changes communities. And that area was once more homeowners than renters. And then we saw a decline in the 70s, 80s, 90s to where it became more rental. And we want to see that number flip back up to, I'd like to see it 50-50, you know, not 100% ownership, but it was when I started there in 2014, it was 30% home ownership, 70% rental. And that's just an unhealthy balance. The American average is 67% home ownership across the country.
So that makes the old field way below
Yeah, less than
average.
half.
The sidewalks really helped over there, didn't they?
It does. And that's a critical issue right now in our community. The city's looking at had some changes with their ordinances about building homes, and I know Orba has weighed in on with some disagreements on those policies, and I'm not trying to weigh in here for, against, or throw anybody under the bus because I'm a member of Orba and we're partners with the city, and
Yeah.
there's valid points on both sides, but I think the spirit of it is, in its best intent, the sidewalks create walkability. When you have just a ditch and then a road with no shoulder, you really don't want to walk. And when you're in a lower income area, you might not have a car, or instead of 2 cars, you've got 1, and there's not. So, like in East Cleveland, I think sidewalks are a great thing for some of these new developments that are maybe being scrutinized right now about whether or not there will be sidewalks included. That's maybe a different thing, but for East Cleveland, I think sidewalks are a great thing.
I think it's 2 different animals.
Mm-hmm.
I think new subdivisions that you're developing, that it's a part of capitalism. If you want to add sidewalks, or if you can, then it's a good selling point.
Yeah.
That's your marketing strategy. But if you're trying to make an older community more pleasing, you can't rebuild their houses necessarily, but you can have sidewalks, and because let's face it, they are more in the city than a subdivision out on Walker Valley Road or whatever.
All right.
So it's now in 50 years, maybe Walker Valley Road needs to get sidewalks, but a lot of those bigger communities, they don't necessarily want anybody walking down the sidewalk. It's just not a thing.
Yeah.
Because the grading's probably And let's face it, new subdivisions now have more grading. They don't really have open ditches like we had then. But in the old field, they have big washed out ditches that you don't even have a place to put your garbage can. And have you noticed there on can't think of the name of the road, but they come. One thing that's kind of odd to me, and I don't know the solution, is they'll put new sidewalks in. They'll turn the mailbox sideways. How's the mailman get in there?
Yeah, that's tricky.
And what's the answer? I don't even know the answer.
One thought we had at one point that was kind of cool was, every house has mailbox. Mailman's delivering to every house.
Yeah.
Well, in a closer, denser neighborhood like Oldfield, what if every neighbor partnered with their neighbor to put 2 mailboxes right next to each other at the corner of their lot, and then, skip that house, and the next 2 houses do that.
Yeah.
Efficiency-wise, I think we're all going to be happier with the mailman delivery rate.
And the mailman would be happier.
Yeah, I can get my job done faster.
Yeah.
And it's things like that you've got to plan for and design for that make efficiency. And what we typically do, no offense to Cleveland or anybody else, but it's just human nature maybe. We just do what's easier. And just... we forgot to think about that. But, something as little as putting 2 mailboxes on adjacent properties together, that's efficiency.
At the time of the old field development, the mailman walked to the door.
Yep.
He'd put it in, he'd walk out, and he'd go to the next one. And so it wasn't an issue then.
True.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
Hello, I'm Dee Burris, and most of you know me as a general contractor. In October of 2020, I started a podcast that I call The Discussion with Dee Burris. Each week, I have conversations with interesting, informative, and fascinating people from Cleveland and Bradley County and the surrounding areas. You can watch the discussion at dburris.com on YouTube and Facebook, where we would ask you to please subscribe, it's free, for updates and notifications of new shows. It's no problem. The Oldfield, they have such wide roads. You take Chippewa Avenue, there's not a better road in Cleveland.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
It's good. Hardwick Street might be better.
Hardwick might be better. I've got a house on I've got 2 houses on Hardwick.
Yeah. But with Chippewa's recent sidewalk improvements, I might agree with you. That's.
I would live on Chippewa Avenue and not have one problem.
Not a
with
hard.
it.
Yeah.
It's as safe as we are right here.
100%. It is. I think maybe that couldn't have been said 10 or 15 years ago.
No, it couldn't have.
And that's part of why City Fields has sunk our teeth into that community to try to partner with the residents and bring about positive change.
You know what blows my mind? If you're an investor and you want to invest in real estate or a builder or whatever, where are you going to go where you don't have to record a plat for your lot, you don't have to get a water meter, you don't have to pay for a sewer tap, you don't have to pay for a transformer, you don't have to get a signature from the neighbor to run it along their back line, the power line.
Yeah.
I mean, where are you going to go? I've eliminated $5,000 in cost.
Yeah.
I guess maybe more.
Probably, yeah. Infill is got to happen in our city. You know, it's busting at the seams, and growth is not going to stop. We're seeing exponential growth from California, wherever, people coming from outside to here. And it's going to put pressure on us to grow outwards and annex, but we've got to look at the infill opportunities within to make the core of our city strong before we. It's a both and thing, really, but that's where my heart is, my passion is that infill development that you're describing.
Do you think that's based on a strange way of that's part of your religious beliefs?
I
Is
feel like
it connected in your mind?
I'm integrating those two things together. My beliefs and this style, this type of work.
Your mission.
Yes. I don't put it that way to a lot of people, but that's how I like to think about it.
Well, you have a passion for it, and it doesn't seem to be that you're necessarily. It seems to be that that's your passion in the helping and the growth and the helping. The not the downtrodden, but giving affordable housing. You know, people don't understand affordable housing.
There's a stigma around
There's
it.
a stigma around the word affordable housing. I had a guy one time say it in a different term that made a lot of sense to me. He called it preferred housing. Because a lot of people just don't give a lot of weight to a jacuzzi in their bedroom.
Yeah.
They just don't give a lot of weight to that. It's not that they're uneducated or poor, they just don't care. I don't have a tennis court at my house. You know, they just don't care. So affordable housing or preferred living, or it's a preferred place to put your money versus somewhere else.
Yeah. I often call it workforce housing. Everybody who's bought our homes, by and large, works, you know, and they may not make a high income earning, but workforce housing has less of a stigma. You know, those words, that speaks to a different audience than affordable housing. Sometimes somebody conjures up an image of public housing.
Yeah.
And not even just Cleveland public housing, but these major cities that have had real challenges there.
Yeah.
But I don't care who you are. The richest of the rich want their house to be more affordable. You know, nobody wants to pay more.
I think that the new generation is maybe smarter than my generation in the fact that they don't necessarily want 3,500 square feet with a bonus room above the garage and have a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
They're more interested in a nice, safe place to live that's comfortable, a good place to park their car, and go on a hike on the weekends.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that because we was paying for the bonus room.
Yeah, right. Well, the generation that was kids when September 11th happened, which today's September 11th, right? Is that today?
I guess it is, yeah.
The generation who were kids when that happened, 7 years later, we've been in a war the whole time. We have the worst financial crisis of our history. Many of our parents lost their jobs. And then the tumultuous political environment of the last 10 or 15 years, people want something that's stable. And, you know, who wants to put themselves on the line for the 3,000 square foot home and all the bells and whistles of kind of luxury when, most people are they're jaded by that other vision. That is what they saw kind of go wrong after 2008, or I don't know, the kids these days, the younger generations has seen really the unraveling of some of our country's stability. And I think the way we express that in our financial decisions is we want something that's going to be stable. And I can afford that 1,500 square foot home instead of the 2,500 square foot, and that is definitely changing. It's a phenomenon.
I've often thought about this analogy.
Mm-hmm.
If you were, say you were 15 years old
mm-hmm.
in 1929,
mm-hmm.
and you saw the Dust Bowl, the stock market drop, your family lose their farm,
Yeah.
all these things. All right, then that guy, 20 years later, at 45, he has to go to World War II. He's there for 5 years or whatever. He comes back, he's 40, whatever, 49. And then he gets married, has kids. They send his kid to Vietnam. His kid comes back wounded or whatever. And as soon as the kid gets back stable, they start saying, we don't know if your Social Security is going to last or not.
Golly.
Now, all right, I know people like that, and they're about 93 now. That person would not borrow money to buy toilet paper.
That's right.
Now, let's go back to 2007. I say 2008, but a lot of people were feeling it in 2007. But let's just say 2008. The whole world came up and said, "Oh, you don't have a CD? We're gonna have to call your loan due."
Foreclose on you.
Now, those people had bought a house in 2006. They had paid extreme amounts for them. They had just paid down to the closing costs because they were borrowing 110% of the loan. And they came up and said, we're going to have to ask you to reappraise your property. And I'm sorry, it didn't appraise because the market's down 20%. You're going to have to bring $40,000 for us to renew this loan. All right, so you say, well, they had it. Yeah, but they didn't buy the boat. They didn't buy the swimming pool. They didn't go on the Hawaiian vacation. Now, those people's kids were 15 years old, say. It wasn't as devastating as the Depression and World War II. But it was to them because it was major. They didn't go to the University of California. They went to Tennessee Wesleyan.
Yeah.
All these little things that aren't significant, but they were to them. All right. Now, fast forward to today. That guy's how old? He was 15 then. He's 30 now. That same guy is the same guy that was 15 during the Depression, and you're not going to sell that guy a 4,000 square foot house with a 30-year mortgage.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Very good correlation there.
So if you're a builder or an investor or a developer, if you think you're going to build these things and sell it to them, you got another thing coming. Because this group wants to have a nice place to live that they know they can afford, and they're going to go this weekend on a nice hike and take some really good pictures.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not gonna strap them to something they saw their dads to.
Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with. So whether we like it or not, we got to be thinking in terms of affordable. And the only way you can think in terms of affordable is to cut out everything that's not utilitarian, such as, I don't know,
The pool in the back.
the pool in the back, and maybe the granite countertops,
Yeah, true.
maybe the brick foundation.
Yeah.
Maybe we're actually going back to that house that you said housed some nostalgia, which was your Sears and Roebuck catalog
Yeah,
house.
that's true.
That's where they all came from.
Yeah.
You know, you can look through that book I got back here of Sears and Roebuck, and you'll find every style of house that's in the old field.
Yeah, true.
So maybe the pendulum swings back the other way. The average house size since the dawn of recording history was 1,650 square feet. So we've gone back to as small as you can get.
We built our largest home last year and sold it. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot home. That was the largest home we've done, and that's
And you just hit what I said was the average over time.
right. And that was our 13th home. Up until then, the average had been, some remodels, some new builds, but 1,100 to 1,200 square feet.
You know the difference between a 1,200 square foot house and a 1,600 square foot house is the hall and the dining room.
True. Yeah.
And the dining room was just for the hutch.
Yeah.
And who has a hutch anymore?
Well, we've gotten a floor plan down that's a nice 3-bed, 2-bath floor plan. That's 1,175 square feet. And
On a 50-foot wide lot.
on a 50-foot wide lot, it's a 26-foot wide home, 50 feet deep.
Now that leaves very little room. That's about 27 foot off the property line, or maybe 25, 30.
It just depends. We try to keep them in line with, because it's all infill, we
Yeah.
try to keep them in line with the houses on the street.
Which
So-
is 25 feet.
Well, a lot of them in Oldfield were 15 from the street. So we'll go through the extra hassle of applying for a variance, because 25 is what their standard is, I think.
I think it's 25 in the city is a minimum front setback.
Yeah. And so we'll apply for a variance to keep it
In
in
line.
line with these other homes that
Including the porch,
are including the porch. Yep.
because that's 5 feet.
Right. But yeah, this home that we'll be building is 26 foot wide, 50 feet deep. But we've done a lot of what we'll do, like early on we would say to the neighborhood association, the Blythe Oldfield Community Association, which of these floor plans do you like best for this property? And we'll have it down to 3 or 4 choices, and they've picked the floor plans occasionally for our builds, so that I call it contextualizing the architecture in the right way. Like, we're not going to come out there with some modern, block house that's
California,
Frank Lloyd Wright,
Florida style.
Yeah, you know what I mean. We're
Yeah.
trying to keep it contextual to that community.
I like when I build in those areas, I like for the house to disappear, if that makes sense. Just
Blend in.
blend in so much you don't even notice it was different.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is that you might want to think about is if you crowd the lot too much, they don't have room to park cars. Because if you've got a 50-foot wide lot and your husband and wife, and you're at some point you're going to have 2 kids with a car. So now you've got theoretically 4 cars. And where are they going to park?
Yeah.
You're going to get up in the morning and say, hey, wake up, move your car.
That's a good point. One good thing about the Oldfield is the way it was designed. A lot of the neighborhood has alleys, back alleys. People call them,
yeah.
and going down the back alley. But we try to encourage parking in the back when it's possible. It doesn't happen every.
Yeah.
You don't get that lucky every time, but And you know, street parking is fair game in that area. You know, there's nothing wrong with street
You could
parking.
almost have 2 parking spots in front of it.
Exactly.
Parallel parking.
Parallel parking.
Chippewa is certainly no problem.
Yeah, and that slows down traffic. Hate to put it that way, but
Which is okay.
mm-hmm.
You know, those alleyways, you know, they were for horse and buggy back in the day. That's what they used to bring them
I've
in
heard
for.
that. But also, coal delivery
Coal delivery.
probably
Yeah,
was delivered on a horse and buggy, but they said, yeah, that's where they delivered my coal. Oh, I got a question for you. Speaking
Yeah.
of the old days, I had never heard this word until I came to Cleveland. A chimney.
A chimney.
Yeah, not a chimney, but a chimney.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of people call it that. What's the scoop on that?
I think it's just ignorance.
It's a cultural thing.
How about when people go to the doctors?
Oh yeah, that's good.
They say, I'm gonna go to the doctors.
Multiple.
That goes to who's that guy that made that famous? Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh, that's him.
You know you're a redneck when you call the doctor doctors.
Oh man.
It's so hard to get. You know, Elon Musk is coming up with these housing pods, which is just a glorified trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see that taking hold. Because if you could get somewhere to live, safe, secure, clean, for $25,000, you'll give up style.
Totally.
I mean, you'll give up Carnish.
I'm ready to give it up. Just need to find a quiet river property. Put it beside there. But to your point, I've heard rumors that there's a tiny home manufacturer coming to Cleveland on exit 20, soon to be setting up shop, and that is going to be in high demand in the future. Whether it's Elon Musk version or this new guy.
Somebody's going to get it down.
Yeah, and we need to be as Cleveland and Bradley County, forward thinking enough to say, what need could this meet in our community, and what do we need to do to make it possible and appropriate to our context. No, we don't want it on every street corner, but maybe it's these are the circumstances where we allow tiny homes. And why are we saying yes to that? Well, because our community and its residents depend on it to survive.
Well, if they don't say yes to that, what we're going to get is it's all the rage in places like California now. They're giving it another name called auxiliary housing.
Auxiliary dwelling unit.
Auxiliary
ADU.
dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So in other words, you just pull one of these behind your house. So you're going to either have to regulate one or the other. Take your pick. But then you get down. Now, if I'm a RV manufacturer, I'm going to say, you're just inventing what I've got.
Right?
So why not build these? And the word tiny homes, I've studied them. The problem with them is, in my opinion, is you have to get stuff that's unusual size, like stack washer and dryer. And stack washer and dryers don't maintain well. And you have to get that stove that's 18 inches wide. And the dishwasher so all those things start costing you more. So if you can make them small with standard stuff, and the only way you can do that is take out the hallways, the dining rooms, and make the rooms a little smaller.
Yeah. Well, some people are doing it and doing it well here in this community.
It's working.
It's good.
Now, it's not a high profit margin, but you're not stuck with a 4,000 square foot house trying to figure out who to sell it to. Because the guy that's going to buy a 4,000 square foot house, he's savvy. You know, they say there's only like 2% of the people in the world that can afford houses on the way upper end. I don't know what that statistic are, but we got to start thinking now that they don't even want it. People are tired of it.
Yeah.
Possessions and.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought that people go on vacations just to escape their possessions?
Yeah. Totally.
Could you get to a minimalist lifestyle?
Real quick. I'm low maintenance myself. Give me my guitar and a meaningful work week, and I can get by on very little.
It's a lot less stress, isn't it?
I'm with you on that.
I think of it as utilitarian more than minimalist, because you know the Shakers, they were big into that. I've been to a couple of those tours and stuff out of town, and they were big into functional. You know, they had every house they built, they had like a chair rail that was 6 foot high or 5 foot high all the way around every room with hooks.
Lantern.
Or umbrella,
okay,
whatever.
yeah,
They
utilitarian.
all had hooks.
Yeah.
So you could.
Yeah.
So they didn't have closets. Every wall had a hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about taking the closets. I know people will think I'm crazy, but I'm not. This is coming. If you don't believe me, wait and see.
One of the houses we just bought over in the old field, 1041 Chippewa, or it's under contract, closing next month. The story goes on that house, Mr. Hang on. We're buying it from a family who's it's been in their name for 70 years, but Charles construction company out under the underpass going towards Cleveland Plywood. Why am I drawing a blank right now?
Not Charles Blankenship.
No.
I know what you're talking about now.
Hang tight. Well, regardless, that's beside the point. I'll come back to it. 1920s home. They remember when everybody, no closets in this home. Everybody had a nail. That was your nail. And you hung your...
That was your closet.
That was your closet. You hung your jacket up, your overalls up, your whatever you needed to hang up. You might fold something and put it in a drawer somewhere, but you hung up, your nail was your closet.
Are we thinking crazy, or is that what makes me and you levitate towards this simple lifestyle?
Well, we've seen how the world has sold people a bill of goods that the most wealthy people in the world sometimes are the most dissatisfied. Often the people who have the most are link their possessions to success. And one of my favorite songwriters says, but the wealthiest percent of the world drinks to an alarming excess.
I always think of what Janis Joplin said. Remember, are you
Yes.
too young for her?
I remember.
She said, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And boy, that's the truth.
That's profound. Yeah.
Because me and you are going to get up in the morning and we're going to go work to pay for this thing that they told us we needed. It's absurd.
It is. It is. I don't think we're crazy. I think there's probably more people like Like out there, maybe.
They may come and get us on a straight jacket.
Jack Nicholson style.
Yeah. What kind of guitar what do you play guitar?
Washburn. It's a '94 limited edition, and I got it at a pawn shop when I was 14 years old. I refused to play anything else.
What do you play?
Folky, bluegrassy, bluesy.
Like what?
Singer-songwriter stuff. Guy Clark, Robert Earl Keen, John Prine.
Van Morrison, Benny Van
A
Morrison.
little Van Morrison occasionally.
He's a little more jazzy, right?
Yeah, he's and jazzy and more complex with the full band
Orchestra,
sound.
yeah.
Yeah, but I like Van.
I love him. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I've been to about 5 concerts, and with his concerts, you get it's usually outside, and you get a lawn chair, and you sit there, and you let Van take you to another world in thinking. But if you think you're going to a Van concert for an ACD concert, you don't know Van. That's not what he's about. Had a friend of mine went to him and said that was the worst concert I ever went to. He was singing. He was standing facing the band instead of the audience. That's just Van. And if you don't like him, you're not. If you like him, you understand that he doesn't care.
That's right.
He's there
Doing
to
his
play
thing.
to your mind, not to entertain you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Less of a showman.
He's not a showman.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I like that.
So folky, would that be like a Curtis Lowe?
Yeah, I could go there. Me and my family, we go to Merle Fest in North Carolina every year. And it's not Merle Haggard Fest, but Merle Watson, Doc Watson's son who passed away. So a lot of, they call it newgrass, not bluegrass, but that sort of thing. So Sam Bush and Peter Rowan and people that were getting in trouble from the Bill Monroes, not playing the song right, but doing their own kind of thing.
Yeah. Rebels as far as bluegrass.
Yeah. I like the old stuff, the traditional stuff, but
Alternative bluegrass.
that's right. Maybe even psychedelic grass.
Do you play any fast stuff?
I try. I'm normally the rhythm guy, but I can hang on and do a few things.
No
here and there.
sledge or nothing like that.
No.
Boy, I'd give $100,000 to play like that, couldn't you?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
I never could do it.
Yeah.
So
Do you
you're
play?
No.
Okay.
I can play it, but I really like music, and I know music well.
Yeah.
But I couldn't play if you paid me.
Spoons.
I can't play nothing.
Well,
I don't have that in my head.
That's okay.
Just can't do it.
that's all right. But you love it.
I love music.
Makes the world go round.
They say if you could control the nation's music, you could control the nation. Think
What does
about
that say about us now?
Well, nobody's controlling the music totally, but if they were, they could control the nation.
I'm with you.
Do you drive fancy cars, or are you more a minimalist car?
Yeah. So my last truck was a '78 Ford. Well,
They were good trucks, weren't they?
They were tough, man.
Had that box look.
That's right. Before that, I had a '93 Ford. So minimalist.
Yeah.
And then my current vehicle is a Chevy Silverado, but my dad does a lot of salvage rebuild work, so he's always got a car going that he's working on, and it was one that I bought from him. So it's the nicest car I've ever had, but it rebuilt title, and it's a plain Jane Chevy truck that I got for a good deal.
When you pay the subs, you pay them on Fridays or pay them when they're done, or what's your process? Because that can get aggravating.
Yeah, well, we like to say we pay on Fridays or get on a rhythm with people. But you got some people who are just like, hey, put it in the mail. I'm fine with that. I know it's coming. And you got some people who are like, here's the invoice, can I have my check?
Yeah, or I'm going to bring an invoice by.
Yeah. So we try to be as flexible as possible. My coworker Brittany, who handles the checkbook mostly for the organization, she's been on maternity leave for 3 months, and she just got
Golly.
back this week. And boy, I am so excited about that.
Were you writing checks all day Friday?
Quite a bit. We did partner with a local accounting firm to help us with some of the payables. They would handle that, and I was still involved because there are 2 signatures required. But it's a lot to just keep up with that part.
And you don't really have time to look at the invoice.
No, it's
I like a minute or two to say, is that what I was thinking?
Yeah.
And how does it affect my next building? Because, you know, keeping up with the cost of a job is not for that job, it's for the next job.
Right. I struggle with people say, well, what dollar per square foot are you on vinyl siding? And I never can.
I can't do that either.
And some people in the industry, if you're a vinyl guy, you know it down to the penny. Well, we used to be $1.25 a foot, now we're $1.37.
Yeah.
But I know what we paid on the last house, and it better be close. That's kind of how
I can usually figure a job at the red light better, closer than I can figure in the office. You know, the
Yeah.
general rule of thumb and that sort of thing. One thing about a house is if you know early on it's running over, you can adjust it to where you need to be.
Yeah, that's true.
If you know early on,
Yeah,
you can start.
dialing it back.
Yeah, there's just things you can do.
Yeah. We have done pretty well most of the time. Out of 13 that have sold, 7 to 10 underway right now. We've done good at breaking even or making just a small, we call it development fee on each house, 5 or 6%. But there's been 2 houses that went just way over. And
I've had that too. I built a commercial building here in town. Had to be done in 109 days, and I worked myself 109 days and lost $12,000. Talk about stupid. I misfigured the curbs. I misfigured the FRP panels. You know what those are?
FRP.
They go behind in the kitchen area. They have plastic panels that go on top of the sheetrock, so you can easily wash it off. And so I had this crew come in and said, "Hey, we'll hang all this for you for $5,000." And I thought, Lord, my carpenters can do that in a week. Well, that wasn't the truth because it was a skill to it. And the plan showed concrete curb and gutter versus curb. With the difference between those two is about $25,000. But it looks the same on the piece of paper. And I missed something else. If I hadn't have missed one of those 3, I'd have broke even. But it was horrible. But I did a good job. I finished. The people were happy. I built them another building, and the first estimate on there was $12,000 from what I lost.
Just built it into
But when
the
you
next one.
lose on these, doesn't it make you feel stupid?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you feel really dumb.
Yeah, it does.
And usually it's in the lot prep, something like that, because it was different than the other house or something like that.
Yeah, and for us, it's peeling back layers of the onion on the remodels, because a lot of what we're doing is remodels.
Yeah.
Well, we thought we were going to peel 2 layers back and be fine and go from there, but we got 2 layers back, and the 3rd and 4th layer needed to be gone, and oh, by the way, the 5th layer does too. And that we're doing better now than we used to at going in and analyzing that and saying, well, this is a teardown.
It's a rhythm you get into with knowing.
And you got to work with the right people, the kind of people that know how to save something is different than the people who
100%.
are the tear it down.
100%.
And we've got some of these people. And I like to. Hey guys, there's a benefit to both of these.
Have you ever noticed like a renovation plumber is different than a new construction plumber?
Totally.
They don't even have the same equipment on the truck.
Yeah.
Same with heat and air. You get a guy that does new heat and air versus a guy that does renovations and makes it work. It's two different trades.
You got to put a totally different hat on when you're a new construction kind of subcontractor to go into a renovation. Right off the bat, you're probably thinking, I don't even want to mess with this. And if you do mess with it, you're going to have to really kind of change the way you think.
See, a new construction guy would think, well, how am I going to get that under the floor? And a renovation subcontractor is going to say, I'm going to cut the floor out and go down through the top.
Right.
And the other one's trying to figure out how to get through the hole and how to get. But the other guy's going, I'm going to cut a hole in the bathroom and go down the top. But you can't. They can't. I found they can't cross over that mindset.
My father-in-law, he was in the military, approaching 70. My wife's mother's husband. But he remembers when he was a boy, a teenager, his dad being a remodeler in South Georgia. And these homes were really simple mill-style homes. And he remembers, the exterior walls, 4 exterior walls, normally in fine shape, but where they sagged in almost every instance was the middle wall. And he said on all these homes, right out of the gate, we took a chainsaw to the middle of the house, cut the floor open, and said, let's jack this up and start from there.
Your money ahead.
Yeah.
If you want residential or commercial plumbing, give Rick's Plumbing a call. Call Jason or Josh. They'll do you a good job. I use them. I've used them for years. They're no problem.
Come on, woo! One.
So let's talk about this. Will there be anything different you'll be doing on College Hill versus East Cleveland, or is it pretty much the same?
So in Blythe Oldfield, Southeast Cleveland, we were kind of getting our feet wet, establishing ourselves, buying homes that, didn't make sense to anybody else.
Yeah.
In College Hill, there's similar opportunities, similar lot configurations that we could dive right in and just keep rolling. But the biggest thing we want to do first, and what I call the foundation to community development, is listening to the community. And so 2022, we have made our year the year of listening for College Hill. What have we done? We've implemented this survey called the Flourishing Neighborhoods Index Survey. And that survey tells socially what people think, structurally what people think, and economically what people think. And we are going to be having a community meeting in probably October to unveil the findings of that survey, and we do a windshield survey of its parcel data, but we do an observation of every single parcel in the area. So there's over 1,000 parcels that we have observation data on. Is there a structure there? Is there a driveway there? If there's a house, is it in good condition? Is the roof clearly leaking? And we take this information to the community and we say, where do you want to start? how can we, as an organization, partner with you to come alongside? And the community has got to take ownership themselves on some things, and maybe they lead the charge on the social revitalization with events and different things. But we're going to jump in, and one of the biggest needs in East Cleveland right now is a grocery store. There was the IGA in Southeast Cleveland that many people have fond memories of when it was in its heyday. And then, Vest Grocery, maybe similar but different in some ways. But both of those companies are gone. Mm-hmm. And so East Cleveland has a hole, a void right now in groceries. And how can we, as an organization, be a catalyst for change in College Hill, similar to the way we have been in Blythe Oilfield? And maybe that looks more like spurring along some economic growth that's not as much housing oriented, but like maker space for business incubator.
You're exactly right.
Those things got to happen too.
Just like the what was that? What was that school they renovated there on Chippewa?
The Blythe Avenue?
Yeah, Blythe Avenue.
Yeah.
See, to me, that was the first step to that area starting to revitalize.
That's right.
So maybe the same thing over there.
True. What in my studies we call anchor institutions. Mm-hmm. Where is the anchor to this place? Not an anchor like drowning you, but the place that people go. And find that place, and a lot of times you can start strategic investments there and right around there, and then it takes off like an earthquake.
And I think one reason is that anchor place is maintained with public funds versus just a house or something that, it's... Now, East Cleveland has no sewer, right?
Where we're at, we Blythe Oilfield does. College Hill mostly does, until you get to that weird city limit line.
So what will you do there?
In the case of
will
no
you
sewer?
Go in the county?
Well, we're probably going to stay city limits in the College Hill area. And I know that leaves out part of that East Cleveland County section, but my thoughts are, let's work on, we're annexing towards exit 20, annexing towards exit 27, up North Lee Highway, down South Lee Highway. Let's focus on this area. There's some land up there that's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You
can throw 2 rocks to Lee College.
Yeah, and there's some beautiful land that you can overlook the Star Mountain and Big Frog Mountain, Polk County. Views that you don't get from historic downtown or.
That's why those people moved there originally.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
If you went in the county, you'd have to be county fields.
Yeah, right. That's true.
But would you get any funds that were city related if you went in the county? You couldn't use them.
Correct.
It'd get complicated.
It would.
It'd provide hurdles that me and you're not thinking of.
Yeah. So there's part of East Cleveland that we're all just kind of scratching our heads. Why is this not in the city? And it's because people there didn't want to be annexed in and didn't want to be taxed. Or the city, conversely, may have said, that's a tough area. I don't know if we want to.
I think it has a problem with gravity and terrain getting sewer there. I think maybe that was it. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
But I think maybe that was the initial. Of course, now they're doing pump stations and all this other stuff. But that's such a convenient location.
It is.
I mean, that whole area. And Mosby Park's a nice place. And that other thing, the community center there, it's nice.
Yeah. They just redid the floors in the whole gym there. It's going to be state-of-the-art, beautiful. The Mosby Playground is still under renovations. They closed it the day after school let out, saying we're going to have it ready by the time school is back to go in. But it's not ready yet. They're doing ribbon cutting in November. But it's going to be really nice. It's just taking longer than we'd hoped. And
Do you know Brandon Brown? He lives over in that community, and he's really an activist on trying to help that College Hill community.
I don't. But I need to
Brandon
know.
Brown.
Okay.
I'll give you his contact
That'd be
because
great.
he's familiar with it. That's his passion.
Yeah.
If you,
Well, let's
yeah,
hook up.
he's a good guy too.
Cool.
So I don't know about the businesses there. What business would go there? I know we got the new gas station there, but that's the other entrance to Cleveland.
Yeah. It's a U.S. state highway coming in from the Ocoee. And I think, as you come in the city from 64 or APD 40 into the city, and you kind of cross that hill, and you're starting to come into the city limits. Really, there's some vacant land in that area that, if developed properly, retail and mixed use, that could, I think, attract growth from APD 40, where we're missing so many people who just go straight out to the Ocoee, and go straight back to Chattanooga or whatever, where we could attract some folks here. When people go out there, where do they stay? They stay on exit 25 and exit 27 if they come to Cleveland.
Because of restaurants, etc., motels.
But if we could build that area up and provide the infrastructure it needs to make it attractive to business investment there, that's going to be a catalyst that housing will start happening. You can't put the cart before the horse. One of the two has to jump in, and it's risky either way, but we've got to do it.
What was that old saying? Rooftops bring gas station, and gas stations bring rooftops, and rooftops bring restaurants, and restaurants bring motels.
Dang.
I don't have
I like it.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense. You can't have just what you said. One's got to come before the other. I think wasn't there a bowling alley there? Where was the IGA? It was right there.
9th and Wildwood. Right across from.
Yeah, that guy, he lives out of town, doesn't he?
Exactly right.
I called him. I had somebody that was wanting to buy that, and he didn't even call me back. What's his deal?
You want to try to call him right now?
Well, find out what he wants for. I got some people that would buy it.
Okay.
I really do.
I
And
would
they'll
love-
open up a grocery store.
Okay.
But if they do that, the city will say the loading dock needs 4 bumpers and 5 rails and 2 outside lights, and it'll make it to where you just can't do it. Do you think affordable housing would be more affordable if they relaxed some of the rules that were not really material?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what specific ones I would necessarily relax. I know we're trying to keep up with codes, different.
Well, the city of Cleveland's under what building? Southern building.
2018.
2018. The county's under 2019.
Okay.
Big difference in cost of houses between 2016 building code and 2018. So why would we choose to exceed what's good enough for the county?
Yeah. Right. The only thought I have on that is the county has different dynamics, like just rural farmland and no infrastructure that make some things should be more lax in that environment. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But there's a lot of density in the county in some places. I just think that if they stayed with the state minimum,
Okay.
which is what the county does,
Right.
and that makes it quite a bit less expensive. And if you add stuff like that up a few times, you get really more affordable.
Yeah. something that I've battled with before along these lines, kind of changing the subject, but I'm staying on track, I
Yeah.
promise, is part of East Cleveland is historic. It's as historic as historic downtown
More so.
in some ways. And some people have wanted to say, hey, why don't we get historic status over here? And I'm often like, well, that means we got to go back with wood windows instead of vinyl. And
Committee approval.
oh yeah, and there's a lot of things that would make cost way more if you get historic planning commission approval. And so we love the fact that it is historic, but we don't want to regulate ourselves to death with maintaining historic, because it's like this. You can't make some of these houses that are worth $20,000 and $30,000. If you did historic renovations on that, you'd be looking at $250,000.
Be committing suicide.
Yeah, financial suicide.
It would be rough.
So there's a balance.
How many houses would you say y'all have been involved with in East Cleveland? From renovation to building?
Well, before we were City Fields, we were Impact Cleveland, and we were under the United Ways umbrella, and we were the ones that managed the TVA Extreme Energy Makeover Grant in East Cleveland, and there were 413 of those.
Don't count them,
All
because
right.
they were really just
Yeah.
sort of a water heater deal, right?
Yeah, well, weatherization,
Yeah.
HVAC, small potatoes, but it was a big life change for folks. But 13 homes are sold. We got 7 to 10 this year. We've got 14 under contract to be purchased between January of 2023 and January 2024. And there's opportunities on the horizon that I can't even speak of yet, but there's when you add all that up, we'll be at 30 by the end of next year.
Do you have to keep the cost separate per each house?
We do.
That gets complicated.
Oh yeah.
What do
you
you
have to do that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I do. As close as I can, which is still difficult because some things are kind of spread between jobs. Like right now, I've got one dumpster at one location, and I'm using it for 5 jobs.
Yeah.
How do you just got to divide it up between 5 and
Yeah.
hope it's closed.
Yeah.
What do you use? Excel or
Well,
QuickBooks or what?
Brittany, my coworker, is a wizard with QuickBooks and fund accounting that is allocating different things to different projects, and we go back and forth together regularly to just make sure we're on the same page with stuff. And truly, she's a blessing. But she and I will get a game plan, and I like to say we have a plan from which to deviate.
Yeah, I like to
Because-
say we have a plan till 9 o'clock in the morning.
That's good. Well, every couple months or so, we'll go back to this flow chart that has all of our houses, all of our projects assigned to different timelines and contractors and funding sources, and we'll say, all right, where are we at really? And we'll revise that about every 2 to 3 months.
Do you try to use the same subs, or do you estimate every job, or how do you, or do you have to, or?
We try to use the same subs, and we've kind of weeded through, or we've worked through a lot of, different folks that sometimes hadn't been the best, or just didn't work out with our schedules, and
Yeah, it just didn't mesh.
didn't mesh, and we've got a good system now that we feel really good about. But with some of the grants that we've got on the horizon, we're going to have to go through a bidding process on some of the properties, not all.
That increases your cost, that bidding
It
process.
slows you down.
Because you know about what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
But
But
you got to do it, I guess, right?
you got to do it. You got to play by the rules.
That'll actually increase the cost because they'll know that they're going to bid on the next one anyway. So they'll just say, "Well, I'm busy. I'll be I'll be low on this one, but he'll be high." You get into a lot of that, but I don't know how else to do it with government money.
Yeah, it's
And then get to another thing you can't get right now. I don't know if you could get 3 bids on a job. Everybody's so busy.
Right.
We had to bid. We'd have to bid to them.
I guess if you just technically just put it out there, you take the highest and best, and if you can't get it more bids than whatever. One or
Yeah,
two,
just say we couldn't get.
Yeah, we
Make
put
a
it out
note.
there by the books.
Make a note. We couldn't. This is the only bids we got. You buy a lot of this material from Tyndall's or Clean Plywood?
It's been a little bit of both, but mostly lately we've been going with Tyndall's.
Have y'all had trouble getting some things?
Yes. Trying to think. What's a big wait list item? Any sort of custom window is way back. Sometimes we provide the minimum kind of basic appliances, so dishwasher, stove.
They're hard to get at dishwashers.
Yeah.
Now, why a dishwasher? Have you ever wondered that? Why
Yeah.
a dishwasher?
Yeah. Why is that standard?
I waited for 6 of them here for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
I know.
Who'd have thought a dishwasher was?
Well, a friend of mine works at Whirlpool, and I think at one point their global said we're 70,000 units behind. And
Aluminum, back to what I was saying. Some aluminum in there, I guess.
and he was like, well, we build 500 of these units a day. And we're like cranking it out as fast as you can move. For us to add one is 10 would be crazy. And how many Whirlpool plants are there out there? But to make up that 70,000 deficit, we're just going to be in a state of limbo wait until things slow down. And it's starting to slow down.
What time will you get out in the morning?
It'll depend. 8 o'clock normally.
You drink coffee at the office or you get it on the way in?
I make it at the house every morning. Me and
Don't
my
stop
wife.
there?
I drink one tall cup and I'm done. I move on after that one.
Do you go to lunch down around that area or you go?
I'd say I pack my lunch 3 days a week, eat out once,
Why do you pack your lunch?
save money. Going back to utilitarian minimalist.
Is it just easier?
Yeah, I mean, I have meetings, so like lunch meetings with folks, and I'll eat out on those. But if I don't have a lunch meeting, I pack my lunch or go home for lunch.
Don't you hate it when you've packed your lunch and then you go to lunch with somebody and then
Yeah.
you're carrying this lunch in your car all day?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I better eat it when I get home, but
Yeah.
you don't want it at home no more.
Yeah.
The people the subs that I use that bring their lunch, they wouldn't go out to eat if you paid them.
Mm-hmm.
They just rather eat in their car and eat lunch. That's just they get used to it, I guess.
Yeah.
They probably have a whole lot more time during lunch break for that.
Right.
Because we're going to Cameron's and waiting on. You ever eat at Cameron's?
I do. Yeah. I prefer Cameron's breakfast, Spoonie's lunch.
I love Spoonies.
I hated that 5 Points Cafe. I think
I
closed
think it
or
did.
sold.
Karen Fulmer. Is that Karen?
Mm-hmm. But several of the downtown restaurants, if I ever eat there, a lot of times I'll just call in and order and pick it up.
Spoonies is a little slow.
Yeah,
It's really good though.
really good. I just go whenever I've, Fridays is a good time to go because normally by Friday you've got, you don't have it under control, but you at least have put in a good week's work.
Boy, that Spoonies, it really smells good, doesn't it? That catfish.
Mm-hmm.
They got good ketchup too. You ever notice that?
Yeah,
They got that
it's
real
sweeter.
thick ketchup.
Yeah, it's the best chicken Philly in town.
I haven't eaten their chicken Philly, but I don't know about Cameron's anymore.
Yeah. Not the same.
I like a place with a real clean bathroom. Because
I
if
hear
they
ya.
don't keep the bathrooms clean,
gotta
and if
wonder.
you ever noticed a place that will, if they don't have paper towels in the bathroom, they're on their way out. Because
Yeah.
if they're not worried about that at the noon hour, what else they worried about?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we sure are glad you're in Cleveland,
Thanks, man.
and you've done a lot of good, and you came out of left field. I'll be honest with you.
Thanks, man.
You just arrived and
Yeah.
took over.
I don't
Thanks a
know
lot.
about that. Thank you, Dee.